rising curve. They're roughly in Europe. So now we have this sharp increase in the infection. And if you don't go into lockdown now and flatten the curve, you will basically explode your overwhelm your healthcare system. And that is what is actually about to happen in Belarus. The increases in infections, the spreads, the amount of infected people per 100,000 inhabitants is the highest in the whole post-Soviet world. You have the highest growth rates of newly infected people. In some time from now, he will probably have to reverse course, but at a huge domestic toll and costs. And he was a fairly popular autocrat until now. He had economic growth. He provided for some sort of social benefits, and this might well erode all these benefits he had with his own population. And I guess there will be a difficult time thereafter.
Gustav Gress, thank you so much for that analysis.
Welcome. That's right.
Let's turn our attention now to the latest developments in the coronavirus pandemic. More than 3.9 million people have now been infected with the coronavirus globally, and more than 275,000 have died. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has approved amendments to his country's state of emergency that grant him and security agencies additional powers. He says they're needed to combat COVID-19. Meanwhile, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has said there will be a period of national mourning for the victims of the virus after restrictions are lifted across the country. Spain has one of the highest death tolls in Europe. And South Korea's capital, Seoul, has closed hundreds of bars and nightclubs after a new COVID-19 cluster was linked to the city's nightlife scene. After weeks under coronavirus lockdown conditions, some European countries are gradually relaxing restrictions and allowing more businesses to reopen. Here in Germany, restaurants in the northern state of Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania have opened their doors again. Diners can now return to restaurant tables, although they must sit 1.5 meters apart from other groups. And staff have to wear masks. The state has one of the lowest infection rates in Germany, but authorities warn lockdown measures could return if infections rise. For more on how Germany and other parts of Europe are starting to reopen, I'm joined by DW reporter Joel Delroy, who's been covering this story for us. Joel, is it back to business as usual for restaurants in Germany?
Well, not everywhere, Claire. Things are happening at different speeds in different places. Last week, the German states, the Länder, got the go-ahead to start easing some of those restrictions. And the state of Mecklenburg-West Pomerania has raced ahead to open restaurants today. However, not all eateries are taking the opportunity to do so. Only about a third are expected to open their doors. That's because it's not clear if people are going to come back. And also, it's not clear if they can actually turn a profit while operating at half capacity, as they have to under these lockdown measures. They are, however, banking on an upcoming tourism boom. That's because the state is going to open its doors to domestic tourists starting by the end of this month. And Mecklenburg-West Pomerania is in the north on the Baltic coast, so it's one of the few places that Germans can go if they want to have a holiday on the beach this summer. So it might be Mecklenburg instead of Majorca.
And what about in Italy? Is life there also ready to return to the streets?
Well, Italy was the place that locked down first in Europe under the coronavirus measures. And although the cases are still quite high there, things are starting to ease up. Restaurants are now allowed to serve takeaway food and drink. And we've been seeing images of people out enjoying that in the streets, having a drink with friends. Not everyone's very happy about this, however. There's some local mayors who say people are celebrating too quickly and that they will bring back lockdown measures if necessary.
Well, I understand that Italy has also seen some positive changes coming out of this lockdown, especially for cyclists. What can you tell us about that?
Well, traffic has reduced across Europe, and many cities are taking this chance to install more pedestrian-friendly infrastructure. Rome has just rolled out 150 kilometres of brand new bike lanes, and this in a city that used to have terrible cycle infrastructure. These bike lanes are intended to help people be able to cycle around and not have to cram into public transport. And the city says that they are here to stay. We're seeing similar things going on in Madrid, where the city has just opened up 19 kilometres of inner-city roads exclusively for people to go exercise. This is so that they don't have to cram together in the parks. And this is going to happen every weekend now, the city authorities say. So it's not that things are returning to normal. We're emerging now into cities that have changed, and I think changed for the better.
Joel Dolroy, thank you so much for that analysis. Well, thousands of people have been protesting in the German city of Stuttgart against restrictions to control the coronavirus pandemic. The demonstration was allowed to take place after Germany's constitutional court overturned an earlier ban. Munich, Berlin, and Frankfurt also saw similar protests today. In India, relatives of some of those killed in a gas leak took their loved ones' bodies to the chemical factory where they died. The protest on Saturday comes as one local official suggested the company, LG Polymers, might face charges of negligent manslaughter. The leak on Thursday killed 12 people and sent hundreds of others to hospital. German-born magician Roy Horn of the duo Siegfried and Roy has died after contracting COVID-19. Horn and his partner Siegfried Fischbacher rose to fame through their Las Vegas shows featuring tigers, which ended when Horn was mauled by a tiger on stage in 2003. He died at the age of 75. Little Richard, considered by some the founding father of rock and roll, has died. He was 87. Little Richard brought a distinctive voice, flamboyant showmanship, and a lightning-fast rhythm to popular music in the 1950s. He was one of the first African-American artists to cross the music business's racial divide. His best-known hits include Long Tall Sally and Tutti Frutti. And a reminder of the top story we're following for you. Russia has marked the victory over Nazi Germany in World War II, but postponed the traditional military parade due to the coronavirus crisis. Don't forget, you can always get DW News on the go. Just download our app from Google Play or from the App Store. That will give you access to all the latest news from around the world, as well as push notifications for any breaking news. And if you're part of a news story, you can also use the DW app to send us photos and videos of what's happening. You're watching DW News. A reminder, you can get the latest on our website at dw.com, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at DW News. I'm Claire Richardson in Berlin. More news coming up in 45 minutes.
In the eye of climate change, Africa's megacities. What's in store for the people who live here? What ideas do they have for their future? DW.com African Megacities, the multimedia insight. Click and enter.
Hey, listen up. That's what video game music sounded like 30 years ago.
Today's tracks take the experience to another level.
Partly thanks to him, top composer Nobuo Uematsu.
Featured in many well-known games, his music is bound to give you goosebumps.
Sounds good.
Video game music on DW.
Many of these survivors are returning to Auschwitz for the first time since it was liberated 75 years ago.
I never thought to come to walk on this earth. I never thought I will ever walk here. But now I decided it's time to show the world that thank God we are still alive. I won.
Kids, most of us, were beaten non-stop. Beaten, mach schnell, go faster, faster, faster. Next to me stood a regular German army, older men. And for the first time I saw some humanity. He put his pocket in his hand in his pocket and picked out a sugar cube and gave it to me. That was the only humanity I saw the whole time.
Every Holocaust survivor here today is a rare exception from the deadly rule of the death camp.
Because you were free.
Just because I was free.
That's why you were
That's why
chosen by Joseph Mengele.
That's why I'm here today, because I didn't do too much.